Composite versus porcelain veneers. What if choosing the wrong type of veneer could ruin your smile and even the way you bite? Hi, my name is Larry Dougherty. I've been doing dentistry with a focus on cosmetics here in San Antonio for about 16 years, and I've designed and planned hundreds of veneer cases firsthand. I've seen exactly how porcelain and composite material performs on different patients. But the biggest misconception I hear is that it's all about the price. Porcelain if you've got the budget, composite if you don't. But it's not that simple. As a matter of fact, it's not about that at all. The real difference isn't just the cost, it's how the material functions. So, in this video, we're putting composite and porcelain side by side and decide once and for all which one reigns supreme: cost. When people make big decisions, like getting porcelain veneers, there's usually one thing on their mind. You see, when you start doing your own research online, you'll find tons of articles explaining what veneers are and which type is best for you. But if you jump from one site to another, there's one detail that never seems consistent, and that's the cost. Some sources will tell you composite veneers range from $250 to $1,500 a tooth, while porcelain can range from $1,000 all the way up to $5,000 per tooth. It's a big range, and it depends heavily on the dental practice you choose, even here in San Antonio. But despite the massive difference, it's clear to see that one costs way less than the other. And the problem is, most people think the cheaper option is always the better deal. But the reality is, when it comes to veneers, that mindset can cost you more in the long run. So yes, while composite seems more affordable up front, those numbers don't tell the full story. Because when you zoom out and factor in things like durability, lifespan, and maintenance, porcelain might actually be the smarter choice. But if you want a more concrete ballpark of the overall cost of each treatment, here's a quick side-by-side checklist you can use. First, look at the cost per tooth. Say a composite runs you around $500 a piece, and porcelain is close to $1,500. At this initial stage, maybe you're leaning toward composite, right? But next, ask yourself, how long will this actually last? Typically, composite veneers usually last around 5 to 7 years, sometimes even less if you don't take good care of them. Porcelain, on the other hand, can easily last 10 to 15 years, and in many cases, even longer. Knowing that, factor in repair and replacement costs. Between the two, composite tends to be more prone to chipping because they're not as strong as porcelain. Composite veneers are prone to shrinkage, which can cause tiny gaps between the veneers and your tooth. Plus, they stain more easily because composite soaks up color over time, which means you might need to get frequent touch-ups or a full replacement every few years. And this can add a few hundred to a few $1,000s to your total. On the flip side, porcelain is stronger, more stain-resistant, and holds its shine, so you're not constantly going back to the dentist to fix small things. But don't worry if you still can't make up your mind, because that's exactly what a personalized consultation is for. When you book a one-on-one consultation with me, we can address all of your concerns so you can make the right decision. So use the link in the description below, and let's figure out the best path forward. Advantages. But here's the thing, even though composite and porcelain veneers might look very similar on the outside, they're completely different under the surface. Let's look at the data. There was a recent study that revealed that porcelain veneers have a 93% satisfaction rate, compared to 82% for lab-made composite and just 67% for direct composite, which means most people are happier long-term with porcelain than with composite. But that's not to say that composite is bad, it just means that each option serves a different purpose. The more you know about their strengths, the easier it is to choose the one that fits your goals best. So let's talk about what each veneer type actually brings to the table, starting with composite veneers. These are a fantastic option if you're looking for a quick fix, because in many cases, you can actually get them done in just 1 or 2 visits. So if you're in a time crunch, like you've got a wedding coming up or a big event, composite can be a great short-term option. Also, if something happens, say a small chip or crack, the repairs are pretty simple. It's usually just a quick touch-up, but depending on the case, it could also be a full replacement. And because they don't require much drilling or reshaping of your natural teeth, it's a less invasive option, meaning your natural tooth structure stays mostly intact, which is great if you're not ready to commit to something more permanent. They're also a great choice for teens. I venture to guess that 9 out of 10 composite veneer cases I've done were for teenagers. I'm not a big fan of doing these types of cases on adults for long-term use. Now, let's take a look at porcelain veneers. Overall, they're more of a long-term investment, both in looks and performance. And since they're made of a stronger material, they hold up better to chewing, biting, and even grinding. And on top of that, they're stain-resistant too, so you can enjoy your favorite foods and beverages without worrying that your teeth are going to turn yellow in just a couple months. In terms of the appearance, porcelain looks more natural because it reflects light the same way your natural tooth enamel does. So when you smile, it doesn't look blindingly white, it just looks real. Now the question is, which should you choose? Well, I recommend you use this 3-step framework to give you more clarity. Step 1. Start with why. Ask yourself, what am I trying to fix? If it's just a small chip or a little discoloration, or you just want a quick boost for your smile, composite might be all that you need. But if your teeth are deeply stained, worn down, or you're aiming for a total smile transformation, porcelain will give you more reliable long-term results. A quick side note, if your front teeth have chipped edges, you probably have a bad habit of using your teeth as tools or there's something dramatically wrong with your bite. You probably need more significant dental treatment than veneers alone. Think about your timeline. After you identify your objectives, you have to consider your schedule. Do you need results fast? Maybe you've got a photo shoot or a job interview coming up. In that case, composite is a more practical choice. But if you're not in a rush and you're after a more customized, high-end finish, porcelain is definitely worth the extra time in the chair. Step 3. Evaluate your long-term expectations. Even after the treatment, veneers still require maintenance to keep them looking their best. So ask yourself, are you okay with doing more frequent touch-ups every few years? If so, composite might be a great fit. But if you're looking for something more durable and low maintenance in the long run, porcelain may be the better choice. Point 3. The procedure. Now you're probably wondering, what happens next? Most people think the process for getting composite or porcelain veneers is basically the same. But the reality is, they're completely different procedures. So let's walk through what the procedure actually looks like, starting with composite. For this treatment, here's what you can expect. Step 1. Shade and sculpting. Once you and your dentist agree on the look, you'll both choose the best shade to match your smile. After that, they start sculpting the composite material directly onto your tooth, shaping and building it by hand, right then and there. Sometimes we'll use templates and jigs made by the dental lab. Step 2. Hardening the material. Once everything is in place, the dentist will use a high-intensity curing light to harden the resin. This will lock it in and give it the strength it needs to handle everyday biting and chewing. But it doesn't end there. Step 3. Polishing and final touches. For the final step, it's all about the details. So your dentist will smooth out and polish the composite material until it blends in naturally with your other teeth. And just like that, you're done. With only 1 or 2 appointments, you can walk out of the dental practice with a brand new smile. But that's not how porcelain veneers work. This one requires more time. So step 1 is the consultation. This is the part where you sit down with your dentist and lay out all of your goals and concerns. You'll get to see real before and after photos and go through exactly what's possible and what's not. Then comes step 2, mock-up design. After discussing the details, it's time to visualize the result. And to do that, your dentist can either use a freehand technique or a lab-made mock-up to place the material directly onto your teeth, sort of like a trial smile. Not every type of case lends itself to this technique, but most cases do, especially when the teeth need to be made a little larger. But don't worry, at this stage, nothing's permanent yet. So once you're happy with the potential result, we move on to step 3, tooth preparation. Now let's clear this up. This step doesn't necessarily involve shaving your teeth down to little stubs. That's a myth, because in most cases, your dentist only needs to remove a tiny bit of enamel, just enough to make sure the veneers fit snugly. Sometimes, you might not need to have any enamel removed at all. In any case, they'll take digital impressions of your teeth's new shape and structure before sending them to the lab. And once your new set comes in after about a month, it's time for the final step. Step 4, bonding. This is when you get your custom-made veneers installed. So all in all, you'll probably need about 3 appointments scattered through about a month before you can get your porcelain veneers. But trust me, the wait is well worth it. Now, keep in mind, this is just a general overview. The exact steps can vary depending on your dentist, the dental practice, and even your unique case. So if you're seriously considering veneers, here's 3 questions you should ask your dentist before starting your smile journey. Number 1, what's the best option for my specific goals? Explain to them exactly what you're trying to fix and ask which material would work best. Number 2, how much prep work will my teeth need? Here's one thing you need to understand about getting veneers. The final outcome depends heavily on the foundation. So, if your natural teeth need a lot of work, it might take some time and possibly a few additional treatments to get them in the right shape for veneers. That's why it's so important to know this up front. It helps you make more informed decisions and sets the right expectations from the start. And lastly, number 3, can you walk me through both procedures step by step? To truly get the complete picture, you need to ask your dentist the breakdown of each process. That way, if anything raises a red flag or makes you uncomfortable, you can bring it up right away, instead of waiting till it's too late. Point 4, the final verdict. Alright, so between the two, which one's the real winner? The truth is, both composite and porcelain veneers have their place. But most cosmetic dentists, especially those who work on smile makeovers every day, tend to favor one over the other. And there's a reason for that. Here at my practice, we've seen a lot of veneer cases over the years. I mean a lot. From quick cosmetic fixes to full smile transformations, we've worked with every type of patient you can imagine, right here in San Antonio. And one thing we've learned, what looks good on day one isn't always what holds up 5 or 10 years down the line. At first, both composite and porcelain can look great. But after the photos have been taken and the months start rolling by, that's when differences really start to show. We've had patients come in with composite veneers they got elsewhere, and just a few months later, they're already noticing staining, small chips, or uneven edges. And for some, that's totally fine. As I said, composite can still be a great option, especially for smaller fixes. But if you want something more long-lasting, something that will look just as good years later, you need porcelain veneers. That's why, after seeing the real-world results time and time again, we almost always recommend porcelain to patients who want a smile that stands the test of time. Quick aside, for any dentist watching this, yes, I know, you know, we know, there's some amazing direct composite veneer artists out there who can do a composite case that rivals any porcelain veneer case. The truth is, not many dentists invest in this skill, and the dentists that do master this skill charge just as much for a composite veneer as most dentists do for a porcelain veneer. So, as far as I'm concerned, we're back to square one. I'm just not a fan of composite veneers for adults in 99% of situations. So, if you're ready to start your veneer journey, here's what you need to do to prep. Step 1, book your consultation. You can spend hours on the computer doing your own research, but if you don't take the initial step of calling a dental practice and scheduling an appointment, all that work goes nowhere, because there's a high chance that what you see and read online isn't actually true. So, the only way to find out is to actually talk to a professional and find someone you can trust. But before your session, be sure to do this next step. Step 2, be honest about your lifestyle and habits. It's easy to overlook the things you do on a day-to-day basis, but they can actually impact how your veneers will last. So, if you're prone to snacking on hard foods or have a habit of opening packages with your teeth, you've got to take note of those and raise them to your dentist. That way, they can recommend the best solution that fits your needs. Step 3, get ready financially. It's no surprise that veneers are an investment. So, before you dive in headfirst, ask your dentist to give you a breakdown of the full cost. Also, ask about payment plans, insurance policies, if applicable, or the possibility of doing the work in phases. And finally, step 4, follow any pre-treatment instructions closely. Depending on your case, your dentist might recommend additional treatments, like teeth whitening, replacing old fillings, or upgrading your dental routine. You may also be asked to avoid certain foods or drinks in the days leading up to your appointment. Whatever the instructions are, be sure to follow them to a T, because these little steps help keep your procedure smooth sailing from start to finish. And while following these steps definitely sets you up for success, there are still a few things that can catch patients off guard. And believe it or not, some people end up regretting their porcelain veneers altogether. So, before you move forward, check out this next video where I break down the most common pitfalls so you can avoid making the same mistakes.